Today, many people take on the thrill of a safari, driving through the wilderness or open savanna in the hope of spotting one of the world's best wildlife is an adventure like no other. But what if you travel back in time to the Pleistocene Epoch? What animals could you expect to see, and what would the scenery look like? Let's take a journey and hop inside our vehicle to travel around North America 2.6 million years ago. We start our safari on the open plains. The Pleistocene was characterized by a period of glacial and interglacial cycles, and the vegetation changed from largely forested areas to more open grasslands. This allowed for herbivores to thrive. As we drive across the grasslands, we spot possibly the most iconic of the Pleistocene species, the mammoth. There is a herd of them, about 15 individuals. We take a closer look. They are intermingled with American bison, a species that still graces the American plains today. But there is something else that is watching the mammoths from a distance, something downwind from the herd. It moves silently through the open grass, its eyes locked onto the smallest mammoth. There's another and another. It is a pride of Homotherium, a scimitar-toothed cat that likely hunted in groups. Fossil evidence suggests that this large cat was a social predator, and whilst some were adapted to hunting during daylight hours, others seem to have developed excellent night vision, making nocturnal hunting easier. We watch in silence as they stalk closer. Standing 3.6 feet, 1.1 meters at the shoulder, they crouch down to avoid detection. Their sloped back and powerful lumbar section were built for power and pulling heavy loads. Stealthily, they step forward, placing their muscular forelimbs silently on the ground, one in front of the other. When they close the gap between themselves and the young mammoth, they suddenly launch their attack, each of the big cats springing towards the herd. The matriarch of the mammoths, who is always on guard, trumpets, and the herd disperses. Pandemonium breaks out, and the mother of the baby mammoth tries to protect it. She wheels around, swinging her tusks from side to side, a display of size and power. But there are too many Homotherium. They surround the youngster, eventually separating it from its mother and pouncing on top of it together. The loss of the baby for the herd is a blow. It is assumed that mammoths had a gestation period similar to today's elephants, just under 22 months. With their slow rate of reproduction, it makes it difficult for a species to recover from significant population declines. But at their peak, populations of mammoths were large and plentiful. Hunting as a team means that Homotherium can take down the large prey. Whilst other big cats of the time, like the Smilodon, frequently snapped their long canines when tussling with large prey, Homotherium had shorter canines. This enabled them to use their teeth to drag prey to the ground. Once the baby mammoth is subdued, the pride of cats delivers fatal bites into its thick, tough hide. When the mammoth is still, the Homotherium starts to devour its prey. But they don't eat it then and there. During the Pleistocene in North America, there is a real threat from the likes of dire wolves and American lions. The smell of the fresh kill carries on the air. Living in the open grasslands of North America, the dire wolves roam in packs. They are capable of hunting large herbivores, led by an alpha pair to take down their prey. They have a preference for ruminants, such as bison, but they are also renowned scavengers. When they smell the deceased young mammoth, they close in. About the size of today's large gray wolves, they rely on the pack to take down larger animals. Their jaws are strong, but they cannot grab onto prey with their forelimbs in the same way Homotherium can. Instead, they bite down, injuring the animal until it succumbs to the multiple bite wounds. The Homotherium can sense the dire wolves approaching. They are numerous, and they know they need to drag away their kill if they want to have any chance of consuming it. Instead of eating the mammoth at the kill site, the Homotherium breaks up the body into manageable chunks, tearing flesh from bone and dragging it away to their lair, where they can eat in relative peace and away from hungry scavengers like the dire wolves. By now, the mammoths have run away from the attack site. They could have either been the Columbian mammoth or woolly mammoth, as both inhabited North America during the Pleistocene. But depending on where our safari is taking us, would depend on which species we were observing. The ancestors of both originated in Africa before migrating northwards and across Eurasia. Some thought to have evolved from the steppe mammoth and then made the journey across Beringia and into North America. The larger Columbian mammoths spread southwards and inhabited the temperate savannas to the south, whilst the smaller woolly mammoths were most suited to the cold steppes of the north. As we drive our vehicle away from the open grasslands and into the forests, we see yet another herd of large herbivores. They look distinctly like elephants, but they diverged from the ancestors of elephants at least 25 million years ago. They are a herd of mastodons, weighing up to 8 tons. These gentle giants enjoy feeding on woolly material such as tree bark and coniferous twigs. Their diet appears to be quite specialized, which prevented them from crossing into South America during the Great American Interchange due to the large open grasslands they would have to conquer to do so. As well as being typically browsers, they are also able to consume pumpkins, which are largely toxic to other animals. Owing to their large size, the mastodon can eat these fruits without any negative effects, spreading their seeds far and wide. Whilst marveling at these impressive giants, we notice that there is something that makes them look different from both mammoths and modern-day elephants. Although they tower above our vehicle, they aren't nearly as tall as their relatives. Instead, they look oddly stocky, with short, muscular legs. Their skulls are a different shape too, much longer than an elephant, but they still have long curved tusks like mammoths. The herd is comprised of females and their young. Once the males reach sexual maturity, they leave the herd and enter a life of solitude, only joining others to breed. The trail takes us through the forested region and back out into the open. This time there is a significant amount of water in the habitat. Marshes and swamplands are surrounded by lush grasses, and that's when we spot a familiar-looking creature. It is heavily armored and walks on all fours, but it is enormous. Measuring 2 meters or 6.5 feet long and weighing up to 400 kilograms or 880 pounds, it looks like a giant armadillo. It is in fact a Glyptotherium, an ancestor of today's armadillos. The shell that covers its entire body is made up of lots of hexagonal scales. Even its head is heavily armored, and there is very good reason for its heavy armor. There are plenty of predators in Pleistocene North America that would consider Glyptotherium a tasty meal. As the Glyptotherium chews on grasses and aquatic vegetation, living a life similar to today's pygmy hippos, a predator stalks closer. It is Borophagus, the bone-crushing dog. Its bulging forehead and incredibly powerful jaws allow it to chomp through bone, as well as the shell-like exterior of Glyptotherium. Originally, it was thought to be a scavenger and carrion feeder, owing to its ability to consume bone as well as flesh. But the wide geographical spread of this canid suggested that it was far more successful than that, and possibly even one of the dominant predators of its time. Now, a pack of them closes in on the unsuspecting Glyptotherium. Their speed and agility make them a formidable predator, and utilizing the whole of the carcass means that they can make full use of their kills. Although they are only 80 centimeters or 31 inches long, about the same size as a muscular coyote, they are able to take down the much larger Glyptotherium by working together as a pack. The predators run at the Glyptotherium, which in response turns and bares its clubbed tail. It thrashes it wildly from side to side. Being struck by the armored tail could cause serious damage, something that could be fatal out here in Pleistocene North America. The pack of Borophagus are cautious as they try to get a bite in. They leap backwards and out of the way of the tail, but after a little while they give up and leave the Glyptotherium alone. It's not worth the risk. Suddenly, we hear a loud screech above us. As we look up, we see an enormous bird. It's some kind of enormous condor and is called Teratornis. With a wingspan of almost 4 meters, or 12.5 feet, it is a third bigger than today's condors. Its short legs mean that it cannot run along the ground to take off. Instead, it has to drop from cliffs to take flight. That's when we spot the distant cliffs the condor must have come from. As it flies overhead, we can see it beginning to circle in the sky. It must have spotted something of interest on the ground. We know that these giant condors ate small animals such as frogs, lizards, young birds, and small mammals which they swallowed whole. But they were also carrion feeders. Perhaps there is a fresh kill up ahead. We drive over to take a closer look. As we get closer to where the Teratornis are circling, we realize that the bone-crushing dog was in fierce competition with other predators across America. Beside a bison carcass is an enormous mammal. It is a bear. But this is different from modern brown bears or black bears. This individual is huge. During the Pleistocene, giant short-faced bears inhabited both North and South America. Homotherium to the south and Arctodus to the north. It is thought to be the largest known terrestrial carnivore ever to have existed, and as we crawl to a stop, we can see why. It weighs up to 800 kilograms or 1,800 pounds, and as it tucks into the remains, it stands at 1.67 meters at the shoulder, or 5 feet 6 inches. When it sees us, it performs a threat display and stands on its hind legs, reaching a height of 3.4 meters or 11 feet. We back up. Like modern-day bears, Arctodus are incredibly protective of their food source. It was originally thought that these bears were largely herbivores, but even consuming vast quantities of vegetation wouldn't be enough to sustain an animal of this magnitude. They were considered slow and not agile. They likely would have overheated if they pursued prey over any great distance. Therefore, it is assumed that they fed on carrion. Evolution selected for larger size, which gave them an advantage at killing sites. This bear could face off against any other scavenger with ease. And just as well, because we spot an American lion approaching from the distance. It is obviously a lion, looking very similar to modern African lions, but it is clearly bigger, with more robust limbs. Rather than the yellowy beige fur color of the African lion, this one is more of a red color. It likely made the kill earlier and ate its fill. Now it's returning for more. It has a den inside a cave in the nearby cliffs, but it hunts on the open plains. This species prey on deer, horses, camels, tapirs, mammoths, and other large ungulates. But its preferred prey is definitely American bison. We wait to see the standoff between the two species that will soon become extinct, along with most of the megafauna we have witnessed during this safari towards the end of the Pleistocene. But the giant bear sees the lion off easily and continues devouring the remains of the bison, and we call it a day. Although this particular individual bison would never make it to see another day, its species will be one of the most successful in North America, surviving through the Pleistocene-Holocene boundary and into the present day. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.